Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, August 18th, and today I want to discuss with you a method for pruning your avocado trees so they stay as small as possible. And before I get into the details as to why I'm doing this, it's important that you know my situation. I am in Zone 8A, and avocados, depending on the variety, are anywhere from generally 9A to 9B trees when you're dealing with the common Mexican avocado varieties. If you're dealing with, say, Guatemalan varieties, they can be hardy to only Zone 10. So even with cold hardy avocados, my growing zone is a full zone too cold to grow them. So I am insistent on growing an avocado tree in ground, so that requires winter protection. And this variety of avocado that's right in front of me is called a Lila Avocado, and it is a semi-dwarf avocado. And I will link to a video above that explains some information about the Lila Type A semi-dwarf avocado. Now, most varieties of avocados that are full-size tree, like a Hass avocado, will grow to be up to 30 feet tall if you leave them to their own devices and let them grow and grow. Now, these semi-dwarfing varieties, they grow to be about half the size. But even if I were to leave this tree on its own to grow to its own devices, it would grow to be about 12 to 15 feet tall unimpeded. And I have no way of protecting a tree that is 12 to 15 feet tall. This tree has to be wrapped in Christmas lights and jacketed. And in order to do that, I need to make sure that this tree forever stays to be 8 feet tall or less. And believe it or not, I planted this tree back in April 2019. So today it's August 18th, 2020. It's only been in the ground for, what is that, about 14 months or so? This is its first full year in ground, and it has already grown to be 7 feet tall. So I can't let this grow any more than it already is, or else I'm not going to be able to protect it over the winter. So in order to show you how I'm going to prune this tree, I need to take you and show you the inside of the tree. And I've already pruned out most of the center stems because you want to keep the center generally open to promote airflow. That way you don't get diseases on your trees. And it is important, in order to keep your trees as small as possible, that you promote it so branching is as low as possible. So down here you will see that this tree is sending out its lowest branches that are only about 18 inches from the ground. So that's really good. And then it continues to send out many more branches that are pretty low to the ground. All of this branching is happening within the first 2 feet of the tree. And I want to give you an example of a great branch right here. Here at the node, I have a branch that's growing at about a 45-degree angle, and then I'm seeing a whole bunch more branching that happens all within a foot. I'm seeing lots of other branches that are coming up in that direction, and they're sending out lots more branches. So that right there is a branch that I really like to see. This branch next to it, I don't like, because this whole branch must be close to 18 inches, 2 feet tall before it sends out another branch. So what I want to do is I want to encourage lower branching, because this branch is going to be way too tall. It's just wasting all of this space. So I'm actually going to cut this branch right about here, above the next node. This little dot right here is called a node. So at this node right here, it's liable to send leaves and more branches. So what I'm hoping for right here is that this little offshoot becomes the new branch, because having this branch up here is kind of a waste. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the tree down here, and then I'm going to do a similar thing with this branch right here. So this branch right here, this main leader has a branch coming off the side. That's all good. But then I run up a solid 2 feet up here before I see the next bit that is branching out. So that's all wasted space. And it's going to be incredibly painful to do this, but I'm actually going to cut this branch right about here. And I'm going to hope that one of these nodes sends out a new branch and branches in all different directions here. Because here I'm just wasting 12 to 18 inches of growth. And that is 7 feet tall up there. If it were more efficient, all that growth could happen at 5.5, 6 feet tall to have that same amount of branching. So those are the branches that I am going to cut out. That's my methodology, and I'm going to show you the tools that I'm going to use to make that happen. So right here, I have in front of me two separate tools. The large tool here is called a Japanese saw, also known as a pool saw. And this is a very fine, precise saw that I'm going to use to cut lignified branches and branches that are greater than 1 inch in diameter. And it's important to use a saw or some kind of very large pruners, because hand pruners like this are going to crush anything that is 1 inch in diameter or larger. So I'm going to use this to prune off small amounts of growth, and I'm going to use this to cut off large pieces of growth so I can make the cuts clean and not crush the wood. And if you're curious about these products, I have them linked in my Amazon storefront. One more important thing to note is that you want to do this to your tree when it's very young and when it's growing vigorously. That way it will quickly send new growth out of the tree. It's probably also a good idea that after a week and it recovers from this shock, that you fertilize it. So that way it'll start sending out new green growth at hopefully the locations that you want, and it'll recover. And this is going to be very painful to watch this video because this is such a beautiful tree and it's almost kind of sad to hack it to pieces. But you have to do what you have to do. And the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut off this unsightly piece of growth right here, because I don't need that branch right there. And it's really just in the way. So that's going to come off the back right there. And then I'm going to take my cleaned, washed saw, and by the way, those pruners were also clean. Make sure you wash them off beforehand. And I'm going to cut this branch right about here. And I want to do that because I want the tree to branch up here, not 18 inches higher where the branching has occurred. And I'm going to make my cut on an angle. And always make your cuts on an angle, because if you make them flush and flat and parallel to the ground, water can pool on there. So always make your cut on an angle so the water can pool off. And now that that branch has been removed, we also want to remove this branch right here, because again, it is branching way too high up here for me. I don't want this branch to come off that high. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make my cut here. I'm actually going to take one more node off. And that should hopefully encourage branching at the node right here. And now that the avocado has had the large branches that were undesirable cut out of it, I'm also going to tip the avocado. And I'm going to try and tip it to be about my height. So up here, once again, I have beautiful branching, but it's happening really high. So I'm going to cut the tree down there. And this is not for the weak stomachs among us. It is not easy to look at your beautiful tree and do this to it. But it's what has to be done if you want form for years to come. And this is why it's important to do this while your tree is young, because it will recover more quickly. And here you can see what my avocado looks like now. I cut quite a bit of green growth off of it, and you can see it all lying down there. And now the tree, I mean, it definitely was prettier before, but because I cut it the way I did, it's actually fairly uniform and it looks pretty clean. And you can see all of the tipping that I did, all of the cuts that I made. You can see them all here. And that's going to encourage branching that is 12 to 18 inches lower than it was before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this green wood and leaves right here, and I'm going to take my pruners and I'm going to chop them up into pieces, and I'm going to spread that underneath the tree. That is called chop and drop, because the best thing to feed most fruit trees are themselves. So I'm going to chop that up and use that as a mulch to decay and decompose and feed the tree. I'm also going to add a little bit of blood meal and some fish emulsion, because I need to make this tree grow some green growth and recover before the winter comes. Fast forward to the future, and it is Saturday, September 5th, and I want to show you all the progress of my avocado since I've pruned it for lower branching. And just check this out. This is pretty amazing right here. This is the big avocado tree branch that I sawed off, and as you can see, it has all of these wonderful shoots that are all forming at the top here. And some of those shoots, they're actually developing branches. Like you can clearly see there are branches that are coming out. And what is also interesting to note down here is that at the bottom, you can see there aren't any buds at the bottom, but there are buds at the top. And there's a very specific reason why this happens. And that is because biologically, trees grow through a principle called apical dominance. And apical dominance means that the growth hormone inside trees always tends to go up to the top of the tree. The tree wants to grow up closer and closer to the sun to reach the sun's rays. So when a tree is this tall, and it grows up and up and up, all of the growth hormone concentrates up on the top tips of the branches. So that is why when a tree is growing all the way up here, they don't try to branch out low. However, when you cut that tree back down to size, like I did right here, you can see I established a new top of this trunk. And as a result, all of the growth hormone is concentrating here. Now that this is the new top of the tree, you have the growth hormone concentrating up here, so that is where it wants to set out the new branches. If I were to have cut the tree down here, then all of the growth hormone would be concentrating all down there, but of course I didn't. I cut it right here, and that is why you are seeing all of this branching happen. And you're seeing this all over the place. You remember I tipped this other branch right here, and now all of the growth hormones once again are concentrating at the top. So I have strong growth coming out right here, strong growth coming out right here, and I have fresh new buds and new growth that was not there previously that is now starting to bud out in all different directions. So you can really see nature at work, how it collects all of the growth hormones at the top of each main stem. And if you simply cut that trunk back, you're going to get all new branching at the areas that you cut it back. So then all we are going to do is we are going to let these branches develop throughout fall and throughout winter. And then once spring comes around, we will select the most advantageous branch. Either one will emerge as the dominant branch that will grow the best, or we'll pick the lowest fruiting branch, because every inch helps when it comes to keeping your fruit tree small. So we're going to let these go until the spring, and we will then reassess our tree and select the dominant branches everywhere that we made our cuts. Another awesome thing to mention is how wonderful the avocado leaves and branches have turned out as mulch. If you recall, I took all of my old branches and leaves that I cut off and I spread them around the base of the tree, and this has just been absolutely wonderful because they have just turned into their own natural forest mat. It's holding moisture very, very well underneath the tree, and it's starting to decompose. It just looks beautiful. It is suppressing weed growth and holding in that even moisture. So remember, don't just throw away your branches that you're tipping. Use them as mulch, especially for trees like avocados, because they love sending out surface roots and they need moist soil in order to do that. And here we are on Saturday, September 26th, and you can already see that this avocado tree has put on a tremendous amount of growth from when we first cut it down. So let that be a lesson to you. Do not be afraid to aggressively prune your avocado tree. They will recover very quickly. So let's walk inside and take a look at the canopy, and we have new branches that are forming everywhere in here. And right here is where we made our first cut. You can see this has already sent a nice new branch that's coming up from the center, and that is going to be our new fruiting branch, which is going to be much lower than the original fruiting branch. And right over here is where we made our other cut. And this has been so densely repopulated with new foliage, you can hardly even see where we made the initial cut. So right here I have a number of different branches that I'm going to be able to pick from next season. I'm going to be able to pick the lowest and strongest and healthiest looking main fruiting branch. So that right there is also going to provide me with a much lower fruiting branch than what was originally there before I made the pruning. Doing a side-by-side, you can see how much I hacked the avocado tree down to encourage the lower branching, and it has already recovered substantially in a side-by-side. So again, you can be pretty aggressive with your pruning of the avocado trees. They will bounce back very quickly. I'm already starting to see so much new lush green development, and I know next season I'm going to get a ton of fruit set on this avocado tree, and they'll be set nice and low on the branching, unlike last year. Hopefully next year my avocado tree will finally be mature enough that it can ripen an avocado fully to maturity. And using these simple pruning techniques on your avocado tree, not only can you keep the tree small enough that it'll be easier to protect in cold weather if you live in a marginal climate like I do, but you'll also be able to encourage that low branching, and you'll be able to harvest your crop a lot lower, not have to bring out the ladders to harvest anything, and it'll also fit your tree in a much tighter and more compact space, so you can grow more food in a tinier footprint. Everyone, I really hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe for future updates and more videos like these. If you're curious about anything that I use in my garden, everything that I use is linked in my Amazon storefront in the video description. If you use our Amazon storefront links, we get a small commission for that, and it won't cost you anything extra, so it helps support the channel and it helps me keep producing videos like these. Thank you again so much for watching. I appreciate your viewership, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video. Okay, Dale, this is called a col de dame blanc fig, which means lady's white collar. Looks like a turtleneck. Let's cut this open, see how it looks. Ooh, it's very pretty. What do you think? Oh, now you're going to behave yourself, huh? Can you give me a shake? Okay. Okay, Dale. Give me gentle, gentle, gentle. No, no, no. Gentle. Very gentle. Very good. That was very good. I have one more here for you. Gentle, gentle. Excellent. Excellent job, Dale.